Good day, everyone, and good morning, ma'am, and also our classmates. Good morning. Our lesson about the science, technology, and nation building. Science and technology and nation building. Let's talk about brief historical background of science and technology in the Philippines. The history of science and technology in the Philippines started way back before the country its independence from the American colonizer. Sa kauna kunong panahon nga nagsugod, sukad sa una nga depende na gid sa mga Amerikano para lang ma-colonize sila. That's why the code of brief historical background of science and technology in the Philippines. Science, technology, nation building involves science in pre-Spanish Philippines is embedded in the way of life of the people. Look at the pictures below. There are two pictures. The pre-Spanish Philippines, karang babae nga naay kuan nga nagluhod nga gitawag og murag culture mangguro ni nila, and also embedded in the way of life, karang pagigig hiniusa sa isig katao like maginagbangay, that called embedded in the way of life of the people. And also, it is observed in the way they plant their crops that provide them food. Karang manguan gid sila, magusana maningkamot, mag-create sila kuan, karang crops with plant, like maka-provide gid nila food, dili sila maginahanglan og lain kay karong panahon nato kay lahi naman ta, like sa atong generation is high quality na gani, karang easier life na lang, dali lang nato makuha ang food with the technology nowadays. And also in taking care of animals to help them in their daily tasks. Na siya kuan kanang it take care of animals to help them in their daily tasks, tinabangay, like mag-care sila sa mga animals para lang sa pangadlaw-adlaw nila nga panginabuhi, dili lang kay mag-focus lang sila sa mga tanom-tanom lang. Dapat nasa animals kay para maka-create sila og usa ka daily task for food production. That's why we called science is observed in the way they interpret the movements of heavenly bodies to predict seasons and climates, which is ang ilang panarbaho sa usa ka panginabuhi is mag-agad sila sa mga season sa climates, like ang weather ba weather. That's we called. And they use science in preparing the soil for agricultural purposes. From the word agricultural purposes, nga nag-focus ra gid sila sa panginabuhi og sa mga agriculture, like mananom to dilitas nga mamuhi og mga hayop. They discovered the medicinal use of plants. And also, science, technology, nation building involves technology. Technology is used by people in building houses, is karang mga gamit karang maka-create og balay, irrigations, and in developing tools that they can use in everyday life. Karang magamit sa pangadlaw-adlaw kuno. Technology, building house. There are 4 kinds ba ni siya? Technology, there are 4 belongs: building houses, irrigations, developing tools, musical instrument. Mauna siya sa parts of technology is used by people in building nga gamit sa ilahang balay sa mga pag-build og house. Music. The ancient Filipinos had music practically for all occasions, for every phase of life, from birth to death. Is culture na gina nila sa unang panahon, like naalang gina ang music from the ancient Filipinos. Like mao'y naandan ba sa sukad pag mao'y madak-an hantod sa mga nangamatay na ya, mao'y masundan ba still be kuan na culture. So that's why the topic all about technology.
The different archaeological, the galleon trade, and the Americans have more influence in the development of science and technology in the Philippines compared to Spaniards and the health and sanitation. So let's go first with the different archaeological. So the different archaeological, the artifacts discovered in the different parts of the country also prove that the Metal Age also had significant influence of the lives of early Filipinos. So, the different archaeological kuno is na-discovered pang sila sa mga lahi ng mga parts sa country, and ila din na prove nga ang the Middle Age is also kanang na-influence bitaw nato as a Filipino. So early live as a Filipinos, we all know that Middle Age daghan na kayo na diri sa ato as especially in the Philippines. So maunay una pod nila mapay una nga na-influence nila and early lives Filipinos. So mana siya ang the different archaeological. So the next is we have the different archaeological. So next is Metal Age influences. So first is we have gold and silver jewelry. So maunay kinaunhan. So makita mo dyan nato, like for example kanang mga alahas, di ba? Lahi kayo na sila makuan. So ang gold mo yung pinakamahal, then ang silver is murag okay ra kanang murag di para nato murag di na bitaw kanang bagat sa bulsa nga na. So makita na to, like especially sa mga jewelry mo na pinaka first example. So makita to like the earrings, the necklace, and then the dere bitaw ibutang unsa na ni man. So necklace, then daghan kaayo nga kasi nga mga jewelry. It's all about the Middle Age influence. So mo na kinakuanan. So until now daghan pa kaayo sila kuan pa kayo nasikat na kanang daghan na kayo sila mga naimbento about mga inana bitaw. Daghan na kayo sila mga design hantod karon. What if sa next generation pa, so mo daghan pa jud na siya kaayo sa like kanang mga alahas, mga gold, diba? Mao ni jud ay pinaka number 1 nga sikat diri sa ato ang like it's all about mga jewelry. So next is trading with other countries. And the third is indigenous or folk science. So indigenous, if we say indigenous, kanang mga tao nga kana bitong makita nato sa mga kuan, sa kana bitong mga tao nga kanang kanang indigenous sila, kanang makita natin sa mga bukid-bukid, kanang na sila yung sarili nilang kultura nga na kanang like pareha nato nga na, so lahi ta nila kay kita ni wear tag kanang mga t-shirt ina, unlike sa mga indigenous people kay kanang ang ilahang suot is kanang magbahag kanang mga inana or bitaw kanang open kayo ang ilahang mga body, so ang ilahang na-cover is the upper and the lower side. So mao na ang mga indigenous people, so and then the indigenous people. So the next is when the Spaniards colonized the century, they brought with them their own culture and practices. So ang mga Spaniards colonize sila sa other country, then ilang gida sa their own ang ilahang mga culture, ilahang gida din ilahang gi-introduce sa mga lain-lain nga mga tao. And so then ilang gi-practice, like for example, di ba namatay own culture, di dapat jud dadon nato ug asa ta dapat importante man jud na kay mao man jud nay kuan, mao jud nay murag nakahiligan, or no, that's not nakahiligan, but it is also part of our culture. So dapat jud mao na siya, dapat jud ato nang hindi walang bahala like ganyan. So the next is they established schools for girls and boys and introduced the concept of subject and disciplines. So after nila nikuan sa ilang mga culture, then we go there establish na pud sila mga schools for girls and for boys. So then ilang gi-introduce ang about sa ilang mga na-learn about subjects and disciplines. So, kay ba naman ta ang subjects and disciplines? So, for example, kanang like until now, diba kanang naamay schools for girls and schools for boys. So like the other university in ana jud na sila, so naadjoy kanang mga different nga mga kuan bitaw eskwelahan. So only nga classroom diri is for girls only, dapat mo enroll in ana is for girls, and then diri na pud nga side nga classroom is or nga campus in ana or building it's for men or for boys in ana. So ilahang mura bitaw gi-separate nila, then ila din gi-introduce the concept about the science and the disciplines. So ila yung gipasabot nga unsa jud ay ang science ana. So and the next is it was the beginning of the formal science and technology in the country, known now as School of Science and Technology. So the first is the formal science and technology. So we all know that without science, what pa technology? So science should ay known na ay na sa atong country, not only the country but the whole. Kay importante ba kaayo ng science, and then ilang gi-apply sa school or sa school o ilang gi-apply sa school. So ilang gi-apply ang science sa school, din unsa jud ay ka importante ang science. So the next is life during the Spanish era slowly became modernized. Next, the galleon trade has brought additional technology and development in the Philippines. So we go the next topic, which is the galleon trade. The galleon trade. In 1565, the Manila galleon trade route officially was established. Miguel Lopez de Legazpi successfully found a route back across the Pacific to New Spain. So the Manila galleons were Spanish trading ships which for 2.5 centuries linked the Spanish Captaincy General of the Philippines with New Spain across the Pacific Ocean, making 1 or 2 round-trip voyages year between the ports of Acapulco and Manila, which were both part of New Spain. So, and it is also known as nowadays China or Galleon de Acapulco. So, mauna ang meaning sa kuan sa galleon trade. So as you can see sa kuan sa picture mo na siya ang example mo na siya ang galleon trade diri sa Philippines. So next is the Americans have more influence in the development of science and technology in the Philippines compared to Spaniards. So muna ang the third topic. So first, they established the following. So daghan kay sila na establish first public education system. So ilaha pa nang na-establish. So thankful kayo to sa American because daghan kay sila mga bitaw nga invento or whatever and so that second is improve the engineering works. So sa una ang mga engineering nga ilang mga trabaho is simple ra but now daghan na kayo sila mga na-improve nga mga works about engineering. So the next is improve health conditions of the people. So kanang atong mga health, it's all about health, di ba? Ilaha pong gi-improve ana. So sa una, di ba sa una is kanang dagkuan man ta kanang kapit ra man ta sa mga bitaw kanang mga tambang-tambang mga leaves inana. So now daghan na kay sila na improve about sa health, daghan na kay sila na imbento nga mga So the third is established a modern research university and then University of the Philippines. So muni ang pinaka first nila nga na-establish the university. So ang na first nila nga established is the University of the Philippines. Muni kinaunhan nga university nga ilang ga-establish. Then sa mga sunod is daghan na kaayo nga mga university nga natukod. Pero mao ni ang kinaunhan nga modern research university. So next is created more hospitals than the former colonial master. So ni-create pud sila klase daghan kayo kan mga hospitals inana. So is Americans did everything to Americanize the Philippines. Next is they recognize the learning of science and introduce it in public and private. And then introduce it in public and private schools. So they recognize the learning of science and introduce it in the public and private schools. So ang science di ilaha pang gi-introduce sa klase-klase nga mga schools like public or private. Like public or private schools nga na og unsa ilang na learn about science mo na ang ila pang gi-apply sa mga schools public and private. So next, the desire of the Americans to develop the human resources of the Philippines is somehow beneficial in the country. Next is health and sanitation. Health and sanitation. Filipinos learn the value of cleanliness, proper hygiene, and healthy practices. So we all know that we are Filipino. We practice we maintain our cleanliness, especially in our home. Not in our home, but also in our community in anak. Diba? So we Filipino or nabitay nga kanang na habit na bitaw nato ang pag-maintain sa cleanliness, especially in our body, in our proper hygiene nga, di ba? Not only the Filipino but I think the other country but in anak pud sila they maintain the cleanliness and also the proper hygiene, di ba? And healthy practices like kanang examples sa healthy practices like kanang gimintin binila mo na ang mga examples inana is kanang we do exercise inana, di ba? Health practices man sad na. So we do exercise niya kanang mga eat balanced diet in kanang bitaw kanang mga kanang responsible pud ta sa atong gipangkaon kan dapat kay bawta unsa na good ba na sa atong health or bad ba kanang inana, so na ba na effects nga foods sa atong health or inana. So gi-practice pud na nato, di ba, as a Filipino kanang health kanang mga it's all about health. So dapat kanang responsible jud ta, it's all about foods kay dili uban ta ng foods is good for our health, di ba nga napoy maka-effect sad na siya. So maod na. So the next is hospitals, clinics, and health centers were established, introducing public hospitals for lepers. So hospitals, so kibaw naman ta, hospitals, the clinics, and health centers ilaha pa nang ga-establish sa taga-Americans and be introducing the public hospital for lepers. So next, since the establishment of New Republic, the whole nation has been focusing on using its limited resources in improving its science and technological capabilities. The last but not the least is it has explored the use of ODA or overseas development allocations to help the countries improve its scientific productivity. So it is explored kuno sa the use of ODA. So ang meaning dahil sa ODA is overseas development allocations. So mauni sila ang ni tabang sa atong countries to improve its scientific productivity.
Government policies on science and technology. So, the Philippine government introduced and implemented several programs, projects, and policies to boost the area of science and technology. So, the goal is to prepare the whole country and its people to meet the demands of a technologically driven world and capacitate the people to live in a world driven by science. So in response to the Asian 2015 agenda, the government, particularly the DOST has sought the expertise of the National Research Council of the Philippines or NCAP to consult the various sectors in the society to study how the Philippines can prepare itself in the meeting the Asian 2015 goals. So the 4 NRCP clustered these policies. So the first one is social science, humanities, education, international policies, and governments. And the second one is physics, engineering and industrial research, earth and space science, and mathematics. So the third one is medical, chemical, pharmaceutical science, and the last one is biological science and agriculture and forestry. Social science, humanities, education, international policies, and governance. So, integrating Asian awareness in basic education without adding to the curriculum. Emphasizing teaching in the mother tongue. So, in mother tongue develops a child personal, social, and cultural identity. Using mother tongue helps a child develop their critical thinking and literacy skills, developing school infrastructure, and providing for ICT broadband. So what is ICT infrastructure? So infrastructure, ICT are all the information and communications technology in infrastructure and systems including software, hardware, firmware, networks, and the company websites. Local food security. So, food security is strongest when food is produced and distributed locally. Locally grown food is fresher and so more nutritious. It builds the local economy as money circulates to farmers and businesses in the area, and it helps build relationships among people, making communities stronger and healthier places to live. Example of local food security include soup kitchens, food banks, school lunch programs, and other programs that give food to people in need. The second one, physics, engineering, and industrial research, earth and space science, and mathematics. So, emphasizing degrees, licenses, and employment opportunities, outright grants for peer monitoring, review of RA 9184 science and technology as an independent mover of development. So numerous issues has been raised in the ongoing election campaign. Unfortunately, one of the most strategic issues facing the Philippines has not yet been addressed. The key role of science and technology in the Philippines Development Plan. It is now clearly accepted that science, technology, and innovation, or STI, are the key elements in the advancement of a country. In that, there is no country that has progressed without including STI as a central part of their development plan.
Number 3. Medical, chemical, and pharmaceutical sciences. Ensuring compliance of drug manufacturing firms with Asian harmonized standards by full implementation of the FDA. Creating an education council dedicated to standardization of pharmaceutical services and care. Empowering food and drug agencies to conduct evidence-based research as full information. Allocating 2% of the GDP to research. Legislating a law supporting human genome projects. Number 4. Biological sciences, agriculture, and forestry. Protecting and conserving biodiversity by full implementation of existing laws. Use of biosafety and standard model by Asian countries. Promoting indigenous knowledge system and indigenous people conservation. Formulation of common food and safety standards.
There are also other existing programs supported by the Philippine government through the DOST. Some of these projects are the following. First, providing funds for basic research related to science and technology. Second, providing scholarships for undergraduate studies of students in the field of science and technology. Third, establishing more branches of the Philippine Science High School system. Fourth, creating a science and technology parks. Fifth, Balik Scientist program. Sixth, developing science and technology parks. Seventh, establishing out of the National Science Complex. So the next is, there are 10 famous Filipino in the field of science. So the first famous Filipino is Dr. Ramon Cabanas Barbera. Dr. Ramon Cabanas Barbera for his outstanding research on tissue in Philippine mangoes. So Dr. Ramon Cabanas Barbera was named a National Scientist of the Philippines in 2014 for inventing a way to induce flowering in mango trees regardless of season. So boosting the local mangoes industry of Dr. Ramon Cabanas Barbera. The next famous Filipino in the field of science is Dr. Josefino Caques Comiso. For his works on observing the characteristics of Antarctica by using satellite images. Dr. Josefino Caques Comiso has studied many polar processes and was among the first researchers to report dramatic changes in the Arctic Sea, ice cover, and accelerated warming at high latitude in the northern hemisphere. And he also a recipient of the NASA Exceptional Achievement in Science Medal, one of the most prestigious awards given to a NASA scientist, and many other awards. Next famous Filipino is Dr. Jose Bihar Cruz, known internationally in the field of electrical engineering. So Dr. Jose Bihar Cruz, known internationally in the field of engineering and for outstanding contributions to the field of automatic control in research, teaching, and service. Next famous Filipino in the field of science is Dr. Lourdes J. Cruz. Lourdes J. Cruz, notable for her research on sea snail venom. Dr. Lourdes J. Cruz is lauded for her research on Conus geographus, a marine snail found in the Philippines. Then, she also working alongside fellow experts to study the properties of snails' venom, which were largely unknown of the time. And she also a research paved the way toward finding practical uses for conotoxins, leading to breakthrough in neuroscience and medicine. Next famous Filipino in the field of science is Fabian Millar Dayrit. Dr. Fabian Millar Dayrit for his research herbal medicine. So Dr. Fabian Millar Dayrit is known for the phytochemical work for the development of legendary as part of the National Integrated Rewards Program on Medicine Plants. So he is also work on the other important natural products including medicinal plants, coconut oil, and carrageenan. He is currently focused on the development of standardization and profiling methods for medicinal plants.
Number 6 is Dr. Rafael D. Guerrero III for his research on tilapia culture, and he was also recognized because of his scientific and technical contributions to the growth of sex reversal and hatchery techniques that helped the commercial fabrications of high-yielding market-sized tilapia in the Philippines and other nations. The next one is Dr. Enrique Mapua Austria Jr. for inventing the meconium drugs testing, pioneered the use of meconium in the testing the mother's abuse of drugs during the course of pregnancy. And he is also a Filipino medical doctor known for his researches in pediatrics. The third one is Dr. Lilian Formalejo Patena for doing research on plant biotechnology. Dr. Lilian F. Patena develops tissue culture for garlic production. Number 9 is Dr. Marijo Panganiban Ruiz for being an outstanding educator and graph theorist. She is known locally and internationally as an expert in graph theory and operations research, and her expertise is valued not only in the academic but in different industries and sectors as well. And the last but not the least is Dr. Gregory L. Tangonan for his research in the field of communications technology. His specialties are intellectual property, high technology competitiveness analysis, and leapfrog strategies for developing countries, and etc. There are outstanding Filipino scientists who are recognized here in the Philippines and abroad. First one is Cesar A. Saloma, an internationally renowned physicist, and he is a professor of the National Institute of Physics at the University of the Philippines College of Science and a member of the National Academy of Science and Technology. Next is Edgardo D. Gomez, famous scientist in marine science, and he was a Filipino biologist who was conferred the rank of National Scientist of the Philippines in 2014. He was a professor emeritus for marine biology at the University of the Philippines Marine Science Institute. Next one is William Padolina, chemistry and president of National Academy of Science and Technology or NAST Philippines, and he is pioneering research in leadership and promotion of natural products, chemistry, and biotechnology, which have led to significant growth and development in these fields in the Philippines. The last but not the least is Angel Chua Alcala. He is a marine science and he is also a Filipino biologist who was named a National Scientist of the Philippines in 2014. Alcala is known for his field work to build sanctuaries and to promote biodiversity in the aquatic ecosystems of the Philippines.
That's all our report. I hope you will like it or not. I hope you will understand. And thank you and take care and God bless us all.